Okay, today we will be solving a problem which is similar to the train problems that we solved. This problem came from one of our readers, and this problem uses all of the all of the concepts in the train problem. Like we have trains which are instead of trains we have cars in this. So we have cars which are traveling in the opposite direction. We have cars which are traveling in the same direction, and also we have cars which have a head start when they're traveling in the same direction. So it all uses all of those concepts. So we given that two places A and B are d kilometers apart from each other, and two cars start from A and B. Suppose the speed of car is greater than the speed of car B. So let's write it down. D is equal to distance between A and B, and we are given that speed of A is greater than the speed of B, and we are also given that if the cars move in the same direction, they meet in 8 hours. So let's say T of S is the time that the cars take to meet each other if they are moving in the same direction, is 8 hours, is time if they travel in same direction. And let's say T of O is the time taken for them to meet if they are traveling in the opposite direction, and this is 1 hour 20 minutes. So 1 hour 20 minutes. Now 20 minutes is 1/3 of an hour, so that's 1 plus 1/3, that's 4/3 hours is time if they travel in the opposite direction. Okay, so we are given these things. Now we're supposed to find out what is the speed of these two cars. So we are supposed to find out what is S of A and what is S of B. So let's draw our car tracks. Okay, so let's assume that the cars are traveling in the opposite direction. So we know that S of A is the speed of A and it's traveling this side, and S of B is the speed of B and it's traveling in the opposite direction. Let's say that dA is the distance traveled by car A before they meet each other, and dB is the distance traveled by car B before they meet each other. So we can write D is equal to D of A plus D of B. We also know that the time taken by these two cars to travel distance dA and dB is the same. So time taken by car A to travel distance dA is equal to time taken by car B to travel distance dB, and the time is T of O. That's the time that these two cars travel to meet each other when they're traveling in the opposite direction. So we can write D is equal to, and speed is distance is speed multiplied by time plus again speed of B multiplied by time. So distance is equal to T of O S of A plus S of B, or D is equal, and we know that T of O is 4/3 hours, 4/3 hours here. So we can write 4/3 times S of A plus S of B. Okay, that's equation number 1. Now let's consider the cars moving in the same direction. Okay, let's consider the cars moving in the same direction. We know that S of A is the speed of A and S of B is the speed of B. Now in order for the cars to meet, we know that B has a head start of distance D on A, and let's say that B travels distance D1 before these two cars meet each other. So that means that A has to travel the distance D, which is the distance between these two stations A and B, plus the distance D1. So A has to travel distance D plus D1 to meet car B. And similarly, car B has to travel distance D1 before they meet each other. And the time taken by these two cars to meet each other is this time TS. So TS is the time taken by these two cars to meet each other, and it's the same for A and the same for B. So we can write D, let's say S of A is the speed of A, and it has to travel distance D plus D1. So D plus D1 divided by TS, or D plus D1 divided by 8, and S of B is equal to, B has to travel a D1 distance, so D1 divided by 8. Now we know that D is equal to 4 by 3 S of A plus S of B. So we can write D is equal to 4 by 3 S of A plus S of B. We already know that from equation 1. Now putting S of A as D plus D1 divided by 8. So we can write D is equal to 4 by 3 D plus D1 divided by 8 plus S of B is D1 by 8. So D1 by 8. So we can write D is equal to 4 by 3 into D plus 2D1 divided by 8, or 3D is equal to, these cancel out here, is equal to D plus 2D1 divided by 2, or 6D is equal to D plus 2D1, or 5D is equal to 2D1, or we can write D is equal to, no, D1 is equal to 5 by 2D, or we can write D1 is equal to 5 by 2D. So from this, okay, so let's call that equation 2. Remember the problem, we're supposed to find the speeds of these two cars. Okay, so we know that S of A is D plus D1 divided by TS. So we know that S of A is D plus D1 divided by TS, or D plus D1 divided by 8. So we can write speed of A is D plus D1 divided by 8. And we know that D1 is 5 by 2D. So we can write D plus 5 by 2D divided by 8, which is 2D plus 5D divided by 16, or 7D by 16. So S of A is 7D by 16. Similarly, speed of B is D1 by 8. So speed of B is D1 by 8, and we know that D1 is 5 by 2D. So we can write D 5 by 2 D divided by 8, or 5D by 16. So the speeds of these two cars are 7D by 16 and 5D by 16, irrespective of what the distance between those two stations is. And we know that D is the distance between these two stations. Now, how do you verify if your answer is correct? Let's say that the distance between these two stations is 80 kilometers. So let's say the distance between these two stations is 80 kilometers. So if it is 80 kilometers, if D is equal to 80 kilometers, then speed of A is equal to 7D by 16, 7D by 16, which is 7 into 80 divided by 16. That's 35 kilometers per hour. Okay. Similarly, speed of B is equal to 5D by 16, which is 5 into 80 divided by 16, is 25 kilometers per hour. Okay, if the distance between these two cars is 80 kilometers. Okay, so we have S of A is equal to 35 kilometers per hour, and S of B is 25 kilometers per hour. Now let's consider the cars traveling in the opposite direction. Okay, so if D is equal to dA plus dB, so SA into TO, and we don't know what the time is. If we are given the distance, if we are given the distance between these two cars is 80 kilometers, let's say that it takes TO amount of hours to travel between these two stations. So we know that D is equal to dA plus dB. So we can write S of A, we know, is 35 into T of O plus 25 into T of O, D is 25, and the D is 80. So 80 is equal to 60 times TO, or TO is 80 divided by 60, which is 4 by 3. Now, if you look at our problem that was given to us, the time TO was 4 by 3 hours. So that's how you solve this problem. So the distance can be expressed, the speed can be expressed as a function of the distance. So S of A is 7d by 16 and S of B is 5d by 16. Okay, hopefully this helps. Thank you.